Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Bree Kimberly, and I am a Community Health and Wellness Nurse Coordinator here at North Kansas City Hospital. We have a great presentation today with my friend Emily Barnes from Beacon Health. She is a preventionist, and she's going to talk to us about the Parent Up program and the power of prevention. Just a little bit about Emily. She's a community prevention specialist at Beacon Health, formerly Tri-County. Is that hard for you not to say that?
I've gotten really used to Beacon. It feels more natural than Tri-County at this point.
Formerly Tri-County Mental Health. Emily received her Bachelor's of Science in Health Studies with an emphasis on community health and holds a Missouri Prevention Specialist credential. As a community prevention specialist, I cannot talk today. As a community prevention specialist, Emily enjoys creating new systems and procedures for data collection and reporting, event planning, educating adults on how to foster healthy youth, and making an impact on future generations. During her time in the prevention field, Emily has found joy in seeing community partners come together in a united effort. That's a good statement. So we've got a good one today. Our chat is open and our Q&A is open. So either one, if you feel comfortable throwing questions in there, and then I can always kind of field those to you. Emily, do you want me to do it at the end if we have questions, or do you like it in the moment?
In the moment's fine. Yeah.
Okay, I'll do that. All right, I'm going to turn it over.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, so thank you, Bree, and the North Kansas City Hospital for having me today. As she said, I am a preventionist at Beacon. I've been in the field for 5 years now. My main role is to provide technical assistance to the North End Coalition. We are a regional youth substance use coalition servicing Clay, Platte, and Ray counties. Here at Beacon, we are the Prevention Resource Center for this 3-county area. We hold a contract with the Department of Behavioral Health to provide these prevention services. So, yeah, we get to work with our community partners across the 3-county area. I get to educate them on how to protect our youth. They are our future. And so whatever we can do now to help them through these really, really hard years, I'm very passionate about. I have 2 littles myself. I have twin boys, so this has become a very personal topic. And I'm excited to equip you all with just a few more tools in your tool belt as we navigate these little lives. So kind of our objective and our outline today is I want you to leave here just having a better understanding of brain development. We can't talk about prevention until we understand the brain and how it develops and at what stages they need this information and this education the most. Learn new information about the 4 C's of prevention. That is the outline that Parent Up is kind of framed around. And then lastly, I want you to leave here just gaining new skills and confidence on preventing youth substance use. So before we get into Parent Up, we have to talk about prevention. What is it? If you could just drop in the chat for me really quick. I always like to gauge what's your first experience with prevention, and from those years or whatever you learned, what stuck with you. You just want to throw that in the chat real quick. Just kind of gauge what you know, what you learned. Seeing anything, Bree?
DARE program.
Yep. That's about what I expect usually. Yeah. The DARE program. Yep. Yeah, that program
is still going on. Is the DARE program still a thing?
It is. Yep. It's evolved a lot over the years. But yeah, still going strong. So I think you still get a little lion after the presentation.
Anybody else got anything?
All right. Well, if something else comes to mind, feel free to throw that in the chat too. All right. So prevention is a science. It's a relatively new science. Just within the past probably 50 years or so, people have really started to do research and put some professionalism behind our field. It's multidisciplinary, which just means that there's many fields of knowledge that contribute to our understanding of human development and the factors and processes that lead to positive and negative behaviors and outcomes. It's become a foundation for not only preventative interventions, but also for those related areas of health education and health promotion. So the focus it's threefold, really. So it's to identify risk factors or identify those factors that protect our youth at risk or put them at risk for social, emotional, and physical health of the individuals, of families, or even communities, to understand how these factors operate to put someone at risk or even to protect, and to develop and evaluate prevention strategies, such as interventions or policies that counter the risk or that actually enhance protection. So when we talk about risk and protective factors, risk factors are the characteristics at the biological, psychological, family, community, cultural level that precede or put those people at a higher likelihood of negative outcomes or negative behaviors. On the flip side of that, the protective factors are those characteristics associated with the lower likelihood of negative outcomes and behaviors, and they reduce the impact of risk factors. So even if a child is faced with risk factors, the protective factors are there in place to help mitigate a negative outcome. As I said, science has evolved a lot over the years. We used to think that a majority of brain development happened in the toddler years. If you've had a toddler, you know they change very quickly. My kids say things to me every day that I'm like, where did you learn that? Like, how do you know how to do that? But what science has actually shown us is that the brain is not fully developed until about the age 25. So if you think about the population we're working with here, the youth, their brain's not fully developed till about 7 years after graduation, which is just wild to think about. That's past college, typically, your typical college 4-year education. During this time, the brain is going through what's called pruning and strengthening. And this is all about behaviors and where we kind of get ingrained the things that we learn. So pruning, this is the connections in the brain that are used the least are reduced or pulled away. So say you learn to ride a bike, you get really good at it for 1 or 2 days and then you never do it again. Your brain's going to get rid of that connection because it's just not used. So it's going to prune away the behaviors and the things that just aren't reinforced. Strengthening is when the neurons are refined and their connections get thicker. So we learn how to write. We do that all the time. That neuron, that connection is strengthened. We learn to run. We learn to walk. Those are strengthened because there are activities and behaviors we're doing all the time. At the same time, our brain is going through that physical development as well. Your brain develops from the back to the front. So the very first things to develop are going to be the coordination, hearing, facial recognition. And then as the brain grows, you see this in your toddlers. Their reading, their language, their body awareness. And then again, as they get older, get a little bit more motor control. And the very last thing to develop is going to be that concentration, the planning, and the problem solving. So keep that in mind when we're thinking about our teenagers, specifically that age group. Teenagers are like a really good car with really good acceleration, but bad brakes. So where they're at in this developmental period is they have really high adrenaline. They've got coordinations and emotions and desire for excitement and risk taking. That part of their brain is really developed and really strong, but their reasoning, their judgment, and their self-control are not quite there. So that's why when you ask them, they do something, or like, what were you thinking? Why would you even think that was a good idea? They weren't, to put it simply, they weren't thinking because their adrenaline, their coordination, their impulse control isn't quite where it is when we're adults. So they just don't have the reasoning and the judgment to make those good decisions sometimes. The brain has a reward center. So the circle in the middle kind of, it represents the teen brain. And coming off of it are these, the connections and these neurons. And the stars represent a dopamine hit and a reward. So in a healthy functioning teen brain, a dopamine hit could be of their phone pings, or they get a good grade on a test, they get to hang out with their friends, or they go play sports. Those are healthy neurons, healthy hits of dopamine. Then we get to talking about those high risk behaviors, right? Their impulse control, and say they're introduced to substances. That a substance can hit the brain with such a high, hard dopamine hit that it can make all those other things feel not as good. So it's not going to feel as good to hang out with their friends or get a good grade on their test or play that sport, because their brain wants that really hard, strong dopamine hit that substance gives them. Now, some kids can try a substance and just think, you know what, this isn't for me. I never want to do this again. No thanks. Their brain says, I can do without it. But then we get some that maybe have some compounding risk factors. Maybe they have a history of substance use in their family, where their brain is like, this is what I've been looking for. And it just affects them differently. Again, there are different risk factors to play that we'll kind of check out. Any questions about brain development? If you want more training on it, we have full presentations and training. This is just a very quick synopsis and kind of setting the stage.
I love your statement about teenagers and fast cars with bad brakes. That is so perfect. I have a 16-year-old right now who just started driving. So that's a compounded, literal and metaphorically. But that is so interesting to me. Like, why do some kids, like you're saying, I guess we're going to get into the risk factors associated with that. But some kids, like, I don't like it. I don't want to drink. I don't like how it makes me feel. Or you even have adults now. They're like, I don't enjoy that.
Yeah.
Others that really like it.
Yeah. There's different things that can kind of put a kid at risk. If there is a history of substance use in the family, sometimes their brains are just more susceptible to addiction. So it can be genetic, it can be environmental, and it could be personal. It could just be how that individual is. It's just our brains are all wired differently. So it's kind of individual. Some kids, they can just walk away from it, and others, their brain's like, this is what I'm missing. Yeah. The brain's, it's an interesting organ for sure. So kind of getting one more little piece of the brain here that I like to point out is, so we talked about how the substance can hijack the brain. We talked about how the reward system, the pruning and strengthening, the connection can be strengthened the more a substance is used. The brain, it prunes away other things that they've learned and strengthens that need that connection. But how does it impair the brain? So we know that with certain substances, it blocks receptors. It has compounding effects, right? But it actually impairs the brain from front to back. So if it's developing from back to front, the least developed part of the brain is actually what's impacted first. So when our youth they already don't have a very well-developed prefrontal cortex, but then you impair that, you're kind of left with a pretty dangerous situation, right? They already can't reason. They already can't do a lot of that problem solving really well, but then you impair that immediately. And the more you impair it, the brain's not going to be able to develop that prefrontal cortex as well as a healthy brain that hasn't been touched by substances. That's where we start seeing some of the long-term effects and the long-term damage to learning or concentration, is because that part of the brain was damaged repeatedly during its most critical development. Again, if you're interested in further training in this, we have full presentations on the brain explained and a little bit deeper dive into how substance use affects the brain throughout life. So we know this information. What can we do? That's kind of the million-dollar question is, well, what do I do? I'm a parent. I have a young kid. I have a teenager. What do I do? Research shows us that more than 80% of 10 to 18-year-olds say their parents are the biggest influence in their decision whether or not to use alcohol or other drugs. That's kind of a lot of pressure for a parent, right? It's a lot we know we're that role model. And even when we think they're not listening, they're listening. So that's why we're going to kind of get into the 4 C's of prevention here and how you can model and help them make the best decisions and show them what healthy behaviors look like. Parents who talk to their kids and teens early and often about the harms of underage alcohol and drug use can cut their risk of using these substances by 50%. So that just, again, goes to show you how much of an influence a parent has, even a trusted adult. It's not just tied to just moms and dads or whoever the caregiver is. It's kinship caretakers. It could be babysitters. Those trusted adults are who are going to have a big impact. So as I said, Parent Up is framed around the 4 C's of prevention. These are care, connect, communicate, and careful attention. Care is educate yourself about the harmful effects of substance use on the brain and make it a priority to protect your child from engaging in early substance use. And we'll dive into each of these just a little bit deeper. These are just kind of setting the foundation. It's a basic information. Connection is key to prevention. Kids that have stable, consistent, and healthy relationships with adults are more likely to make safer decisions and live healthier lives. Communicate, make it clear to your child that you don't approve of them using alcohol, marijuana, vapes, or other drugs, but be curious and open-minded about their experiences. And finally, pay careful attention, know where they are, who they're with, and check in when they get home. Keep an eye out for any early signs and symptoms of substance use. So first, we're going to get into care. If just 6-8 months ago, if you would have walked into my house, it would have looked like these top 2 pictures. At a young age, we know how to care for our kids. We know to put baby gates up at the top of stairs or to separate from unsafe spaces. We have cabinet locks so they don't get into chemicals. Come to my house now, we still got cabinet locks because spoons and forks and utensils are the most interesting thing in the world, pots, pans. But we lock our cabinets, right? So we don't have what happens before they're getting into the bleach or the other chemicals. So how can we show care as they get older? You gotta think about self-care for you and for the youth in your life. So nutrition, exercise, and sleep. Offer healthy snacks and well-balanced meals. Daily walks, get outside. Doesn't have to be anything strenuous. Go find a nature trail, just walk in your neighborhood, wherever you have access. Maybe a gym membership. You don't have access to walk outside, a gym membership, you can walk on a treadmill, you could lift weights. Some gyms have pools. Just get the body moving and keep the body healthy. And then probably the hardest one of all is at least 8 hours of sleep each night. And if you've heard Michelle Lane's sleep talk, you will know that this is very important. But we also know for our youth and those growing brains that they need plenty of sleep to help their brains grow and rest and re-nourish, replenish. Another option for self-care is mindfulness. A couple of different options here are box breathing. So you'll see this diagram off here to the right. So you breathe in for 4 seconds, out for 4 seconds, and out, and that helps regulate your system. Hand model of the brain. This is actually developed by Dr. Segal. So your hand kind of represents your brain. Your palm and wrist represent the cerebellum and the brainstem, and these are responsible for our basic instincts. Our thumb is the limbic system, and this is the primary emotion center of our brain. So you'll hear him talk about flipping your lid. So your normal brain, you're very controlled. You have your problem solving, regulation, self-control, and logic. So a healthy brain, it's closed, you're good. And then your limbic system, it's when you flip your lid and all those things, you're just very over-regulated or dysregulated. So thinking through those, putting a finger down at a time until you can control your limbic system or your limbic system. Journaling, this is a really popular method, just getting your feelings out, writing them down. I argue even scribbling. You just get a journal out and just scribble away your frustrations. And then yoga. That's another way to get your body moving. Yoga really focuses on calming your body, calming your mind, and recentering. Another way to show caring is modeling positive coping skills and behaviors. So caring for your body and caring for how you're showing your emotions, reframing the way we speak about stress and magnify positive coping skills. So a lot of times, I know I'm a coffee drinker, so a lot of times I'll be like, I need my coffee, please just give me just a minute. But instead saying things like, I just need some quiet time to reflect. So that way we're not showing that we're dependent on a substance like caffeine to get us going. We just need to kind of be mindful and be peaceful and take some time to kind of ease into our day. Same thing with alcohol. It's a really common phrase to say like, oh, it's been such a long day. Like I just need a glass. I just need to sit down, relax with some alcohol. Instead, flipping that and saying, it's been a long day. I'm just going to go for a walk. Do you want to come? Showing that you're caring for your body and you're modeling how to cope in a positive way versus turning to a substance. Next, we're going to look at connection. As we said before, connection is the key to prevention. Letting that youth in your life know that you care and that you are there for them. So just listening. You know, I remember whenever I was younger sometimes, and even today, like sometimes I tell my husband, like, I just need you to listen. I don't need you to give me advice. Please, let's just connect and just listen. I will listen to you, you listen to me. Paying attention, not being distracted while you're trying to have these conversations. We live in a phone world. So putting the phone down and just having the one-on-one time. Spending time kind of in that same note, screen time versus eyeball time. It's actually been shown that screen time raises your cortisol levels, whereas eyeball time decreases those cortisol levels. So just a really good chance to connect, making that eye-to-eye contact. Follow up, connect with them, say, hey, like last night you were really we really talked about you struggling, like how, like, are you doing okay today? Not just leaving those conversations as a one-time situation, making sure that you're in tune with how they're doing, connecting with them regularly, and making sure that they don't need anything further on a specific topic. Thresholding, this is about connecting as soon as you get home. So it's really easy when you get home, you cross that threshold at the front door and you've got a million things to do. You have to cook dinner, there's homework, there's house cleaning, there's 100 things to do. So something you can do is when you first walk in the door, you cross that threshold and you just say, how was your day? Tell me about your day. Connect with that person as soon as you get in the door. And it just kind of sets a really good tone for the day. That's something my husband and I implemented at home, and even with our kids, is before we start talking business about life and all that, we say, tell me about your day. How was your day? Anything interesting happen? And like I said, it just sets a really good tone for the rest of the evening. And finally, connect through outings. Like I said, it doesn't have to be anything extravagant. It can be a walk. It could be going to, say, an aquarium, a restaurant, whatever it is. Just get out of the house and connect on something that maybe you're both interested in. It can be hard to connect with teens. So if they're just in a skate park, maybe go out to skate park together. They're interested in comic books, go to a comic book store, a bookstore, whatever it is. Just take time to connect at their level. Another good time to connect is through meals. We have a campaign that we'll talk about through Parent Up called Meaningful Meals. And research has shown that there are lower rates of substance use and depression when regular meals are had together as a family. They have better peer relationships, higher self-esteem, better grades, just by connecting through that. Next is communicating your strong stance against substance use. So there's things like, for example, screen time. I said going into being a parent, like, we're not going to do screen time. Kids are not going to be screen kids. Then we'd have the TV on. They've gotten a little older. I'm like, okay, like I'm a little more relaxed, but we still limit our screen time. So I just don't take a strong of a stance on that. But caffeine, I do not allow my kids, they're 2.5, to have caffeine. I take a very strong stance on that. They don't get sips of it because they're little. They don't need caffeine. So when I take a strong stance on that, they absolutely know caffeine. But like I said, I'm a little bit more lenient on screen time. With that, this graph on the right shows that the stronger a parent's disapproval is about a substance, the lower the 30-day use rate is. So it just shows when we take a strong stance, our kids are listening. And so in 6th grade, there's a very strong stance about not using a substance. And the 30-day past use rate was 1%. Goes up to senior year, get a little bit more lenient. You don't take as strong of a stance, or you don't talk about it as much. 30-day use is nearly 20%. So they are listening, and our stance does matter. So when you're communicating, just talk early and often. It's not a one-time conversation. It's not, hey, we're not cool with that, right? It goes beyond that. It has to be constant. It has to be reinforced, but keep it low key. It doesn't need to be, let's sit down on your bed and let's talk about this. Because everybody knows that you're going to get a spike of anxiety when mom says, come sit on my bed. Let's chat. No, nobody wants to do that. So keep it low key, keep it conversational, drop it in. If you're at an event, say, hey, I know that there's alcohol here, but we don't allow that. That's not an option in our family. Again, don't worry about getting everything across in one talk. You'll forget what you want to say. Use teachable moments from real life, and then set expectations before your child goes out with friends for big events specifically. We do a campaign around prom and graduation on alcohol use, because we know those are high risk times for our youth. So we really encourage parents to have those conversations before and reinforce that we don't use substances in our family. It is an expectation that you don't. Your friends might, but in our family, we're taking a strong stance. And if you feel uncomfortable, please come to us and we will come and get you. So having those kind of those connection moments again, and just reinforcing that you were there for them, and that it's just set your expectations. The goals of those conversations is just to just let them know that you disapprove. You care about their health, wellness, and success. Show that you're a good source of information about alcohol and other drugs. So that's part of learning through the Parent Up campaign, is educating yourself so you can have these confident, educated conversations with the youth in your life. And then finally, just to build skills and strategies for the youth of, help them build those avoidance skills or those refusal skills. So if they are in that situation, they're confident saying, hey, you know what? No, nope, that's not for me. My family, we actually take a stance on that's, not till 21. This is a screen grab of one of the talking tips and open communication handouts that we have here at Parent Up. Again, it gives some little background information, and then it gives talking tips to help guide the conversation. All right, now we're going to just talk about paying careful attention. We live really busy lives, and so we just encourage parents to slow down, pay attention to what's going on. Again, communicate with your youth, just kind of keep an eye on what's going on. It's important to know where they are and who they're with. I remember as a kid, I'm like, why do my parents care? Like, why do they need to know who I'm with? But now as a parent, I'm like, I need to know this, and this. But it's just so you're aware of who they're with, and what the environment could be like. Set a curfew and follow up with them when they get home. Saw a video recently where a girl said, one of the biggest differences in my life was whenever I was in high school and I would go out and my dad would wait up for me. As soon as she got home, he'd be sitting right there and he would want to, he'd be there to talk. He'd be there for whatever she needed. But she's like, it just meant so much that he made sure I was safe and that I was home. Watch for signs or symptoms of substance use. These can be kind of tricky, but again, on the Parent Up website, we have things to kind of be aware of. Be alert for changes in behaviors, friend groups, attitudes. Middle school, high school is a really tough time, so they go through a lot of behavior changes. So just kind of being up to speed on what's going on in their life and knowing what to look for, what to be alarmed about, and what's just kind of normal behavior. And finally, paying careful attention to the substances in your home. We often don't think about our medication cabinets once they get to a certain age. We don't think about our expired medications or their access, but a lot of our youth report easy access to substances within the home, especially as marijuana has become legalized in our state. Gummies are really accessible, and so we're just being alert and making sure that your substances are locked up so they're not easily accessible by the youth. You can also work together with other parents. We're not the only ones parenting, and there's other people out there that are trying to navigate these same situations. So any support that you can get from other parents, asking them, saying, hey, this is our stance, is this where you guys are at? So that way you kind of have like a buddy system almost, so you can tell your kids, well, so parents, they don't allow it either. Because in a youth perception, everybody's doing it. Well, everybody's parents allow them. So if you just kind of have a support system there to kind of lean on and use them as an example, that is really helpful. And you can also use what you know to educate other parents. Again, my kids are little, but I still talk to other parents about substance use prevention, and our kids are tiny. So it's never too early to just educate and talk. And speak up if you know parents are providing or allowing substances. On our parent website, we have a warning letter that can be sent completely anonymously. If you know a parent is providing alcohol in their home, it just reiterates the law and lets them know that they could get in trouble. But also stand up for the other kids that could be involved for their safety. And again, it takes a village. We're not out here raising our kids alone. We are never meant to. So just, again, building that support. So after you're having these conversations with your kids or just the youth in your life, these are just some discussion and reflection questions. For you as an adult, you kind of stop and reflect and think, what is my stance towards substance use? Am I flexible? Where do you stand? So when you go into these conversations, you're confident in what you're telling the youth in your life. A question for youth is, how are you going to care for your brain? That's what I talk to my kids about, is they have to keep their brain big and healthy and strong. We got to build it up with healthy things. So just asking you, how are they going to care for their brain? And some conversations that you can have together. Part of the Meaningful Meals program that we talk about is having 4 meals a week, 18 minutes each. That's kind of what the science shows is effective. It doesn't have to be a sit-down meal. It can be through the drive-through and just sitting having a moment together, or it can be takeout, whatever. But can they commit to 4 meals a week, 18 minutes each? Who else should we invite? Who else would you love to be part of this connection experience? Reiterating with them and discussing what are the new rules, what are the expectations of drinking, substance use, friends, curfews. Be clear in these and make sure that they understand where you stand and what the expectation is. And then just follow up with them this dialogue of, what do you need from me? What more can I do to help? Who else can we involve to help you and support you? Giving them some control in this situation, obviously not letting them set the curfew or what their stance is, but giving them some control in who's involved in this process and who they see as their support system and getting them involved. It'll lead to a lot more reception and a lot more agreeability and confidence. Any questions before we move on? I'm going to wrap up a little bit about the Parent Up campaign. But any questions about the 4 C's of prevention? Kind of the model framing we use.
I just have a comment about it takes a village. I know that, having a teenager, whenever my friends are around, she will often be so much more receptive when that statement comes out of a friend's mouth.
Yeah.
My mouth, right? And I also have noticed that when her friends are around, it's way easier to have these conversations because she might not be chatty about it, but her other friends may be. So those things have helped me, and those are a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, we're real big about talking about Narcan and not taking, pills, it's ibuprofen or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it takes a village for sure. It's hard to parent.
Yeah. And I'm just in the say, please, no, thank you, don't hit stage. I'm like, oh my.
Go to the bathroom. Yeah. Are you potty trained? Those things. I get it. But
yeah. Yeah. And I love that statement about getting their peers involved. We have a whole team here that they work specifically with youth, and we have some peer-to-peer programs, and we do know that. We know that they're influenced by their peers just as much. So I love that a prevention conversation becomes normal within their group.
Yeah.
And I love that, the peers can ask questions to you, or we're not responsible for just educating our kids, but the people that our kids are around. So
Absolutely.
love that.
Good stuff.
All right. So the Parent Up KC website is a gold mine of information and resources. A few of the things we have handouts on setting expectations. We have a whole resource list and content on that. We have regular insight blog posts that are written on the different topics. We have communication guides. And a piece of the Parent Up campaign is Roots of Resilience. And this is a campaign or kind of subsidiary of Parent Up that just talks about how to build resilience within your youth and how they're going to go through some really tough times, but how can we build up their coping? How can we build up their resilience skills to get through what life's going to throw at us? And we also have tabs for substance specific information. So that's going to be on alcohol, marijuana, nicotine / e-cigarettes / tobacco, and then prescription medication misuse. We run regular campaigns through Parent Up. Again, we focus on one substance about every 2 to 3 months. These are some of our most recent ones. For vaping, there's our teens need to take risks. That's part of growing up, is you take risks, but they should be safe risks, and vaping shouldn't be one of those risks that they take. So that just this campaign educates parents on the harms of vaping and then different things that they can do to protect the youth in their life. Parents, you are rock stars. This is an alcohol prevention campaign that launched during late summer. 5 urgent reasons. This is our newest marijuana campaign. It's an urgent matter because it's still new, it's emerging. So this is just 5 urgent reasons of why marijuana is harmful to youth. Watch Drop Talk is a prescription medication prevention campaign, and kind of included with that one is where to drop off unused or expired medications, and then what to watch for, and then having those conversations and talking about the harms of taking prescription medication that is not prescribed to you, or taking random pills. We know fentanyl has become such an issue and such a scary topic, and we cover some of that on our Parent website as well. We talked about meaningful meals. This has been a really popular campaign for us. People love it. We have an activity with it where we provide a shoebox that you actually get to build, and we call it an unplugged box. And it is a place to put technology during mealtime, so you can have those full technology-free, unconnected meals. We'll get those out at resource fairs, and kids will say, "Mommy, you need this." Or the parents look at their kids and say, "Where was this months ago?" So it's been really receptive. People are really excited about putting away technology for meal times. We also give supplies to decorate the boxes. They get to reflect the family, and stickers and all the things. It's really fun. And then again, our Roots of Resilience campaign, kind of the message is that every single one of us has a role to play in building resilience. And our kids, it's such a valuable skill to learn. It's not something we're born with. So it's a constant work. And even us with adults, there's work to be done on building the resilience within ourselves. Each campaign kind of has these core components. There are video and radio PSAs. If you're driving in the Northland, if you listen to Mix 93.3, Spotify, Pandora, you'll probably hear a Parent Up ad. We have billboards across the city. Our social media, there's posts regularly that you can share. We also have content and media share sheets that we can share with organizations so that they can post content on their pages. But like I said, you can just share from the Parent Up or the Parent Up Facebook page. Also, if you live in the Northland, you've probably gotten a Parent Up mailer. You've gotten maybe a handout in the mail. Those are also available on our website to print off. We have palm cards, and then, like I said, we have those insights that are written by our staff, and we've even had some guest writers from the community. All right, so I kind of want to wrap this up today just by putting some thoughts in the chat of, thinking through the things we've learned today. What's your next step? with this information, where do we go from here? What do you plan to do? What are some ideas that maybe we can incorporate? Any ideas on some next steps?
For me, I think my daughter does have a curfew and I often do wait up for her, but I hadn't really put together the checking for impairment or making sure everybody that she's with is okay.
Yeah,
Not that I think she would do that, but
yeah.
so it was more like I just want to make sure she's home safe in her
Mhm.
bed, but kind of making that having a conversation, after a long night, what went on?
Yeah,
Touch base. I like that.
yeah.
A question that I had for you, Emily, was are our numbers of substance use going down amongst teens because of these campaigns?
Yeah, we just got our Missouri Student Survey data back in June, and we saw almost all of our numbers across. We have core measures, so perception of harm, acceptability, availability, peer perceptions, and they've, for the most part, have all moved in a positive direction across the Northland. So we're seeing our substance use rates go down. We're seeing, we did a community survey as well, and parents, their thoughts on the harms of marijuana are actually getting better. Like they're actually starting to see the harms. And then again, like our youth are starting to see the harms in vaping. That number drastically improved. And they're not thinking that substances are as available. So yeah, there's been a lot of improvement, I would say, for both adults and youth this
That's
year.
great. That's great because often we just hear the kind of the scare tactic, but to know that things are
Mhm.
improving is huge.
Yeah, yeah, and that's where prevention's come a long way too, is because it used to be very scare tacticy. It used to be the mock car crashes, and what science has showed us is that those don't have lasting impacts, right? But if we're framing it in a positive way, and we're having positive conversations, and relating it to brain development and talking about it in developmentally appropriate ways, it's going to make a lasting impact. Um, and that's where our approach to it, Parent Up, is a little different, is that we educate adults, right? We don't just go to the schools and talk to youth. We talk to the youth, and then we talk to the adults, and then they can go home and have educated conversations together, right? And that's where the Parent Up campaign really tries to just keep you up to speed with what's going on with the youth, so that way, like I said, just have knowledgeable conversations.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard as a parent and things change so quickly and there's so many the vaping really scares me because I just watched a webinar, I think it was actually through you guys a couple days ago about just what these devices look like. A lot of people don't even know. And then there are all these flavors that are really enticing. And there's ones that are even games. These vapes are in like they're games and as you take so many puffs, then you score more points. I mean, my mind was blown. I had no idea. Um, I don't want to say I feel old, but I feel old.
I know.
It's like I had no idea.
I know.
So,
And it seems like it came out of nowhere too, like it happened so fast. And that's where, prevention, we do our, like we stay up with the trends. Like we constantly have to stay on top of what's going on, because people come to us and they're like, oh,
what's this?
what do we do? What happens?
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a lot. It's changing, and people don't realize that. Like they don't think about how fast the landscape changes, for sure.
I think that's half the battle is just knowing what's out there. So,
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you can keep in touch with us. Like I said, I work here at Beacon. I think my contact information is on the next slide, but all of these resources and more are available on our Parent Up KC website, and then our Facebook page is just Parent Up. Like I said, we post regularly. We're very active on our social media. Our website is constantly updated, so any and all information you can need is going to be there. And then there's my contact information, and this is a QR code to just do a post survey. Just let us know how we did, if this information was helpful to you. We can also send out a link. I can throw it in it.
Yeah, send that link to me and we can forward that
Yeah,
out.
I'll have
this today.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Well, everybody, when you're cruising around town or listening to the radio,
Yeah,
keep your ears and your eyes peeled for the Parent Up.
check out. We have a billboard on 35 South It was our knockout teen vaping. I saw that one and I got so excited. It was like by South Liberty Parkway. We have a couple up north. Excelsior Springs has a couple. So once you know we're there, you're like, holy moly, I've been seeing this stuff everywhere.
Trying to fight that good fight.
We're doing it and it's working.
Yeah.
Prevention works.
Thanks so much, Emily, for joining us today, and thank you all for joining. Yeah, there's that info there on the screen of Emily's. So hit her up, check out Parent Up. Check out our website, northkansascityhospital.org, because we have lots of other previously recorded content and educational material there. And I hope you guys all have a great day. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.